Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1993. Since his first appearance in 1897, Dracula has become the archetypal symbol for lust and aristocracy, the way that these qualities predate on the helpless and destroy or corrupt them. The film itself was a passion project by legendary filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola, who adored the original story. While general opinions on it can be split, no one denies that it was an example of a master filmmaker going above and beyond to pay homage to one of his favorite works of fiction, capturing those novel qualities that make Dracula so compelling in the first place. So what better tie-in than a bunch of video games that only reenact the bare-bones plot beats for the movie? 1993 was a weird time for this film to release in terms of game adaptations. The SNES had been out for 3 years, but the original NES was still getting games. I mean, Mega Man 6 came out the same year for the system. The best of the classic series, and I'll fight you on that. At the same time, the Game Boy had already been out for a few years, and PC gaming was just starting to turn more mainstream. All told, this resulted in 9 SKUs getting adaptations of Bram Stoker's Dracula. The 16-bit and Sega CD versions were done by Psygnosis and Traveler's Tales, while the 8-bits were pumped out by Probe, who you might know from the bunch of ports of Mortal Kombat 2. This is the first game I think I've played with a sound test on the main menu. The animation is pretty smooth. It's an alright platformer. I hate having to manually wait to turn left and right. It makes it feel clunkier than it needs to, but it's not the worst thing in the world. As expected, you are Keanu Reeves journeying through Transylvania in an adaptation of the movie's plot. Oh, sorry, did I say Keanu Reeves? I meant Michael Jordan. Hot damn, you jump high in this game. These item blocks are inspired and give you power-ups like hearts, weapons, and extra time. Now, I don't generally like time limits, but this one is pretty fair for how short the levels are, at least near the beginning. What? I'm not playing this whole thing. Do you know how many of these I have to do? Okay, I immediately come to a dead end with some platforms that look like I should be able to fall through them. I can't. There's only 2 buttons here, and I expend both of them before running around aimlessly trying to figure out what to do. And eventually night arrives and I accidentally break through the platform. I have no idea how I did this, and I'm soon greeted with yet another. Time to look up a walkthrough. Okay, turns out you can actually do a ground pound move by hitting down while jumping. Yeah, this slight change in animation where his legs are out, that's an almighty, earth-shattering stomp! The second level is a little more complex and has shades of Green Hill Zone? Maybe that's just me. It ends in a boss fight against a shadowy salamander fellow you need to chuck rocks at. It's actually somewhat challenging, if not repetitive, and oh no, I died. Guess I have to move on. The Master System port... what? Master System port? The Game Boy port is just a scaled-down version of the NES game. It was voted 21st worst video game of all time by Flux magazine. It's not that bad, Jesus. Also, the most underrated gem of all time by 6Y magazine, which I can't confirm exists. As the Wikipedia page for this game so cleverly points out, it resembles Super Mario Land more than it does a horror film. The boss at the end is actually way more trivial because the sprite has a gray outline that makes it much easier to see when it's coming. The second level sees Keanu trapped in Castle Dracula, dodging traps and throwing rocks at ghosts. How does that hurt you? I got careless and died. Moving on. The first thing that'll strike you about this version is the really good music. I mean, check out this intro. Some gorgeous pixel art on display here too. You've even got this rendition of Dracula's armor from the movie. Am I the only one who doesn't like this costume? It looks like plastic to me. Anyway, listen to the intro tune. This is some great 16-bit composition, deceptively complex, catchy, really sets the mood. And it's gone. Alright. Now what's a complete crime is that the composer is not credited anywhere in the game. Like, what? Why? What? This is also a platformer because, I don't know, it was the early 90s? It's actually not that bad. If a little punishing, the control feels fairly smooth, there's no turnaround lag, your attack is lightning fast, like holy crap. You can even hold it down to release if something comes your way unexpectedly. In other games, the attack being on release might be annoying, but it's just so quick it doesn't matter. One thing this game suffers from is feedback. Everything feels very light, from attacking to jumping, moving, being hit. That wouldn't be so much of an issue, but the actual design of the levels and enemies doesn't facilitate speeding through, like in a game such as Strider. There's hidden spikes all over that you need to trigger with precaution. Enemies can have very sudden, jerky movements and often rely on crouching or timing your strikes. While it might look large at first, your swing doesn't have enough range or coverage to make going fast a viable playstyle. You can actually choose how many lives versus hit points you want at the beginning, which is actually a really interesting trade-off. Health is rarely replenished, but more HP means that certain bosses are easier to take down in one go, at the risk of not having as many chances. Vice versa, you can opt for more chances at a fight, but make it less forgiving. Either way, you have about 4 or 5 continues before you need to restart the whole game. It's definitely not the worst thing in the world, a surprisingly competent action platformer that toes the line of old school hard. One thing I do find obnoxious is that you have to sit through the full credits of the game every time you need to restart. I mean, I guess the music's good, but is that
Fred Fox? Oh my god, Fred Fox! Oh my
Fred
god.
Fox!
Oh my god, Fred Fox! Oh my god,
Fred Fox!
Fred Fox!
Oh, Fred Fox!
I forgot that this was that episode. Okay, so out of curiosity, I went back and rewatched that episode, and I noticed something kind of odd. The version he's playing looks different from mine. Now, I was initially going to pass on the Super Nintendo port because supposedly it's only slightly different, but once I checked it out, oh boy. The SNES version is terrible. The sword has no reach, and every enemy takes multiple hits to kill, meaning you're more likely to take consecutive hits because the iframes are also really short. Enemies are also placed much more randomly. It feels sloppy. They're stacked on top of each other, meaning that you're even more likely to get a train run on you. Or, considering Keanu Reeves, a bus? That wasn't even funny in my head. If you're at all interested in this game, play the Genesis version for the love of God. It's mind-boggling how only a few simple changes can turn a pretty decent game into a hellhole. I don't even know what happened. They came out the exact same year, they have the exact same staff, the only notable difference is the programmers, but they were both doing double duty on level design for both versions. Like, was the SNES version like a beta? There are Game Gear and Sega CD adaptations, but I'm sore. Yeah, there was an Amiga game. The rip I got of this naturally came with 4,000 different ROMs, most of which didn't work. This one just hung on this seizure-inducing intro for the team that dumped this in like 1995. I sat here for like 10 minutes waiting to see if it would actually load the game. It didn't. Oh, this one works. This one works. Alright, the music's pretty good. No real start screen, just kind of pushes you along. And, oh. Ah. Oh, here we are? That's Keanu? This game is extremely awkward. The total silence is punctuated by deep inhales and a punch that sounds like a small explosion. We're back to turnaround lag, and the animations have a rotoscoped look to them that suggests they were based on real people. Ooh! Whoa! My man is a rat! Did I say real peoples? Scratch that. Real rats. Jesus Christ, you want to talk about lack of feedback. Taking and dealing damage is only communicated by maybe a sound effect when you get hurt? I can't even tell if I'm doing damage to this enemy. In order to walk up and down stairs, you can't just stand over them, idiot. You need to stand in front of them, and then... Where did you learn to walk stairs, Keanu? Oh, look at my guy. You are just assaulted by little nuisance enemies. It's really unclear whether you have any iframes after being hit. I think you have a little after reviewing the footage, but it doesn't feel intuitive, especially considering it's hard to tell when you're taking damage in the first place. Anyway, the goal of this game is rather simple. Crawl through a few levels, finding and destroying coffins. Again, it's not the worst game I've ever played. Once you get used to the controls, it's a little less awful. Fun fact, this game was made by 5 people. 3 were artists, 1 was the composer. This is the single programmer's only other work besides Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This guy had a corner on the market for video game adaptations of movie adaptations of classic horror novels that included the author's name in an attempt to seem closer to the book while also being even less like the book than the classic movie adaptation. I think I'm done with this one. Alright, last one. The DOS. Another platformer. It's a first-person shooter? In 1993? So, it's safe to say that this is probably taking inspiration more from Wolf 3D than it is Doom. Maybe in some ways it shouldn't. Preamble, I was running this game on too low a cycle setting in DOSBox. I know, just put up with some choppy footage for a second to see my first experience with this game. It's misleading to call this an FPS. What it really is a first-person, horror-flavored puzzle maze game with shooting elements. You are, I guess, Keanu Reeves, searching a labyrinthine cemetery for coffins to destroy with holy wafers. The coffins continuously spawn enemies you can kill with your gun, and you can find items like extra bullets, food to replenish health, and more wafers. Very quickly I ran out of wafers, and even though I found more coffins, I had to scavenge around looking for more. The game only starts you with 3, and there are 53 coffins? Are you... What? There are only 3 levels in this game, so if my assumption is correct, they all have at least the same number of coffins, meaning there are 159 total? And I have to scavenge for more wafers after 3? You know what? Fuck this game. I'm not even gonna pretend to engage with it. It's slow, boring, repetitive, frustratingly mazy. It sounds like this. The most engaging thing about it are the comments on the My Abandonware page, where I assume this woman is having a schizophrenic breakdown while looking up Bram Stoker's Dracula for DOS. I'm going home now to pick them off the way you want them, and Pie-Yix was a time for you and your kids. I'm just going to go get a bite, and then I can come home for dinner tonight. I have some time tomorrow morning to go to the store to see what you... You know, this video started off because I noticed that there were like a million adaptations of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the film. I don't know how much the marketing budget for this thing was, but when you look at the teams for some of these games, especially the Psygnosis ones, a lot of them were made by skeleton crews. What's even more surprising is that, at least of the ones I didn't skip, they're mostly alright. The best one is easily the Genesis version, and even that one is not the best title in the world. It's not even the best game with Dracula on the system. The NES one probably comes in at a close second. I shudder to think what that would have looked like a few years earlier. The late era NES titles tend to be pretty good in general. I don't know what I was expecting, but I guess it happens when you just hard commit to a video about something you find mildly intriguing with no prior research. I haven't even seen the movie. Why are you watching this channel?